All right, so we are in fact now recording. On the table for you guys, I just put out some of the flyers as a reminder of the dates for the upcoming meetings. Each time we get together, we'll try to focus on a different aspect of homeschooling. So we'll have some people that come to all the meetings and some people only come to one or two. But we want to just try to help as many of the local homeschoolers that have questions or need help. And a lot of times being face to face with somebody makes it a little bit easier to get the gist of what's being said, or to ask the questions that you guys have, especially when we get into talking about things like curriculum or how to handle certain age groups. We'll have some examples of stuff that we bring in, and it's nice to be able to actually like see things in person. And Wendy with Madd LuLu is awesome, and so she is allowing us the use of this space for today, but hopefully all of the rest of our meetings will be at their soon-to-be new location off 278 in Covington. It's in the Ingalls Shopping Center. I think it's called Martin's Crossing or something like that. The address and all of that that's on the flyer will be correct for future meetings. We just had to tweak this one a little bit. The other piece of paper that you guys will see on the table is a quick rundown of what we are going to cover tonight. This is the basic gist of the homeschooling requirements for the state of Georgia. All right. Each state handles things differently, and because homeschooling is education, that means it's a state thing. Luckily for us, Georgia is really, really cool about homeschooling as far as requirements and the laws and everything go. So compared to some states, we don't really have all that much that we have to worry about. I do have, once I'm done running my mouth, and I'll try to be real brief, I do have printouts from the Georgia Department of Education's website and what they say about homeschooling. I have the same information from the Georgia Home Education Association's website, and they go over the requirements for homeschooling as well. And then also I have HSLDA, which is Homeschool Legal Defense Association, their information on the state of Georgia, printed out over here if you guys want to take a look at them. You can also visit their websites, and they have all of that. That's exactly where I printed it out from. But it is all the same information that is on this little half sheet that you guys have. When it comes to homeschooling, the primary thing is filing your declaration of intent to homeschool. Whenever you make that decision that you are going to homeschool, that's the first thing they want you to do. This makes sure that your kid doesn't end up enrolled in the public school system. If your kid has already been enrolled in the public school system, this tells them, hey, this kid is withdrawing, not attending public school anymore. It is an online form. It will ask you for your kid's name, their age, their grade, your name, address, and phone number. And then you sign it digitally. I have mine in my wallet too, I didn't think to grab it. You sign it digitally, and they will basically give you a huge, long, crazy code that counts as your signature. And then we tell everybody, make sure you print it.
Yeah.
Make sure you save it. And what I do is I save it to my desktop computer, and then I print a copy that I file away with all my homeschool papers. And then I print a second copy that I carry around in my wallet. Because if you go someplace and they offer an educator discount, or they offer an actual homeschooler's discount, you show that little piece of paper and you save money.
Wow.
So it's awesome, guys.
Okay.
All it takes is that little slip of paper. So definitely, I always suggest that you keep a copy. Either save a copy to your phone, because we always have our phones, or print it out and keep it in your wallet. I have saved on museum admissions, I have saved on school supplies, just by showing that piece of paper. All right? That officially makes you a homeschooler. Now, in order to make sure you're doing the homeschooling thing properly, the parent in charge of the homeschool student is supposed to have a high school diploma or GED. We've had a couple of instances where neither of the parents has that. And so what we suggest, there are plenty of programs out there that will help you get one or the other. So we point families to that. The other option is to enroll your students temporarily into a home education program while you take care of securing that diploma or GED. Just one of the parents or guardian has to have it. And typically, we've only had like 2 or 3 parents out of thousands that have not had some kind of GED or high school diploma. But I always like to make it clear that like even that can't stop you. There are ways that we can fix that, all right? Once you have that handled, there are certain things that the state wants you to do each year. You need to make sure that you are covering the following subjects: science, math, social studies,
ELA,
and English. Thank you. It's been a long day. My brain's not quite working. And language arts also, they say it needs to include reading as well as the actual grammar, composition type stuff. The way in which you cover those subjects is completely up to you, as long as you're covering those subjects. We'll get into more of that kind of information when we discuss curriculum options and homeschooling methods, but there's absolutely no shortage of creative ways for you to cover all of those required materials or required subjects. You are supposed to homeschool for the equivalent of 180 4.5-hour days. That doesn't mean you have to do 4.5 hours every single day. Doesn't mean you have to do 180 days of schooling. I don't do math. She knows that very well. It's the equivalent of 4.5 hours times 180 days. We have 365 days in a year as homeschoolers for us to meet that requirement. So attendance is not an issue for anybody. You can work full-time during the day and homeschool in the evenings or homeschool on weekends and still meet that attendance requirement. So that's not usually an issue. I don't know why I'm not looking at a piece of paper. I should just be looking at a piece of paper, guys. Because that's almost anything, almost everything. At the end of every year, it is recommended that you do what they call a annual report or progress report. For some parents, this is as simple as saying, okay, Susie did this for English, and this for math, and this for social studies, and this for whatever subject I forgot to name off just now, and that's it. Some parents will go a little more in depth. They'll list grades, or they'll give examples of what they covered in the classes. list field trips that they took. There's all kinds of things that you can include in that annual report. As an example for my kids, I give the kids name, age, grade that we had them in that year, all of the classes or clubs that they participated in, sports, whatever. I cover if we had a subject that we didn't take a class in order to cover it, then I'll write down that subject and whatever curriculum we used or whatever materials we used. I do grade my kids, so I include their grades for each class. And then, especially for my high schoolers, I also pull examples of their work that we've done through the year for each subject. And it's maybe 2-3 pages per class or per subject. And then I'll print that page with their name and all their class info. And I take all of it for all 3 of my kids. 2 of my kids this year, forgot, I only have 2 now. And I stick it in a manila envelope, and I write the year on the outside of it, and then I stick it in a box in my closet. Because you don't have to send it to anybody. Nobody's gonna look at it. You just have to keep it on file on that very rare off chance you find yourself having to validate your homeschool. All right? The final requirement for the state of Georgia, and probably the one that people struggle with meeting, is testing. Testing is required once they hit 3rd grade and every 3 years following that. A lot of homeschool families will test every year as a way to kind of benchmark how their student is progressing. There are specific requirements when it comes to the testing. It has to be a nationally standardized test. There are a dozen or so options that you have as far as what you can choose from. The most popular options are the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. Now that I said that out loud, I don't think it's called the Iowa Test of Basic Skills anymore. Is it just the Iowa?
Just Iowa.
It's just the Iowa now. There is the California Achievement Test, or the CAT. There are the PASS tests. There is
PASS, like PASS.
PASS. And that's a great test. It's actually developed specifically towards homeschoolers.
Is that the one that you can get is not timed?
There are several of them that are not timed. I don't think the PASS is timed. You can get the CAT untimed. Some of them are available online, and some of them are paper that you get sent to your house, and then you send it back to have it be graded. The key here is it does have to go through some organization out there because it has to be graded. And the grades get piled into their system because that's what makes them nationally standardized, is because you have hundreds upon thousands of these kids that take these tests. Once you have your results, you don't send them anywhere. Nobody sees them. It is just yet another one of those, hey, you gotta keep records kind of thing. We will have, do we have it on the fall schedule? December.
Yeah.
December, we will talk about the tests specifically, along with the record keeping. We'll bring in examples of those annual records, just to give you guys kind of an idea on what you might do for yours. We'll also have examples for high school transcripts at the December meeting. But that is it. Those are the 6 requirements. You have to file a DOI, you have to have high school diploma or GED, you have to meet the hour requirements, the subject requirements, you have to do your annual report, and you have to do testing. That's it. And other than a DOI, nothing gets sent in anywhere. The only reason you have to do things like the annual report and the testing is, like I said, on the off chance you got a nosy neighbor that goes, man, I don't know why her kids aren't in school, and decides to send people after you. Then those reports, those tests, all of that record keeping that you've done, that gets shown to DFACS, Child Services, the courts, whoever it is that comes knocking on your door. I have been doing this for 8 years, and I've only known of 2 families that have actually had to handle a situation like that. So it's rare, thankfully.
I'm trying to figure out how to condense my time because we did 217 days of school last year. And thank goodness my boys love school. But yes, but I do want to create a balance. So this year, we wait till after Labor Day to begin. And thank you all for someone in the group that invited us to go to the thing at the State Bar Association.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited about that for our
That's
first
a lot
field
of
trip.
fun.
Yes, so excited about that. But I have put in an hour and a half for lunch and recess. But the good thing about it is, I call it bankable days. So even though school hasn't officially begun for us, we do some type of reading or math or something, everyday life skills. So they have bankable days that are already going to the school year. So I think we have like 25 days already towards the new school year. But we're doing this from like 7 to 3 daily. So I really want to make it fun, especially for people that are doing this. Because one time when they were younger, I did it in 4 hours or less, and it was just effective and fun. So I kind of want some ideas for people that are not really taking the whole day.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, especially new homeschoolers, they think that homeschooling should reflect public school, and so those kids are there for 7-8 hours.
Right.
But the thing a lot of us forget is that when they're in public school, a lot of that time is the teacher getting on to behavior, the teacher helping other students, them going to the bathroom, them walking in the hallway, recess, lunch, getting them ready to get on the bus, all of that stuff, that's probably half their day. And then the other big thing we see with a lot of homeschoolers is thinking that school time is sitting at the table and working on a worksheet or reading a book or something like that. Homeschooling can be all kinds of other things. And so if you're taking them to the park and letting them play for an hour, you just did an hour of PE.
Yeah.
And that counts towards your school.
Yes.
My daughter loves to bake. And so every time she goes in that kitchen and she bakes cupcakes, she just did home ec. And the thing, to newbies, it's like, well, she made cupcakes, that's not school.
It is.
She had to use math.
Yeah.
She had to read the recipe. She has to understand how those ingredients work together to make her cupcake all nice and fluffy, because if she leaves out some ingredient, it's not going to be good. And so once you start realizing that there is so much that goes into just every normal day that we can count towards school, then it's not hard to meet those hours.
No, it's not. That's how like I said, I was tracking, but then I was like, gosh, I feel like it's over 180. But that's how we went over. And like you said, my son loved baking, and my oldest son, he wrote his first book in 2020. And sometimes just reading and writing, that counted towards. So
Definitely.
yes, but they're excited about Spanish, starting Spanish. I'm gonna curtail this because I do want, like I said, I noticed when I taught my students or family, when they come to visit us, 3 to 4 hours, it was effective.
Yeah.
They learned, they retained it.
And that's the thing, because chances are you're going over that 180 days, you don't need to be like, man, we gotta hit 4 hours today,
Yeah.
because you're gonna make it up at some point.
Oh, yeah.
And everything from taking a walk, you know, I know especially when my kids were smaller and we'd go for a walk, I'd have them point things out and, you know, try to identify different things. Well, they were doing exercise and they were learning about nature, and then some of the stuff intrigued them even more, so we went home to research on it, like, okay, they would see a mushroom and they're like, oh, can we eat it? I don't think so, but let's take a picture of it and we'll go home and find out about that, you know? So all those
Creative.
little things, you know, made it fun. And don't get me wrong, and now they're in the high school years and some of the stuff they're like dreading it, but at the same time, it's like, fine. Miss Tina, when we walked in, she was like, where's my boy? Because my son works here. And so, and I was like, well, it's Friday. It's the only day he has to actually do homework, because Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, he's with us while I'm teaching. Not in every class, but because I have to be there,
Yes.
he has to come along. And so he'll either hang out with his friends or read a book or, you know, catch up on
Work
some
on his
homework.
drawing.
Work on his drawings, which is what he loves. And then Wednesday he works here all day, Saturday he works here all day. So
Okay.
Friday he takes to do his work, so Sunday can be his chill day,
That's right.
you know? And he's happy with that, and he actually wants to work more now that they're opening up the other location because it's closer to us. So,
And that's
The
part of
choices
the
that
whole.
presents them.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the other thing. It's like the choices and the flexibility.
That's the big thing in
Yeah.
homeschool is that, you know, everybody can cater it to
What works for them.
what works in your house, what works for your schedule, what works for your kids' schedule, what works for their interests, what works for their learning style. One of my kids, you know, I could hand her a textbook and be like, here, and she'll read it, she'll get it, she'll be able to do the work. We're great. She can go do it on her own, no problems. My 2 boys cannot do that. And so we do something different for them. You know, one of them, he can watch video, he can do something hands-on, and then he's got it. My other one, he's only 10, so we're still trying to figure out what exactly works the best for him. But it's definitely not books. So we are trying a lot of different things. They love their classes that they take, because taking it in an environment with other kids, being able to bounce things off of their friends, being able to ask questions, being able to get help from the instructor when they need it. There is a lot that those public school students are getting, but at the same time, we've got the freedom for them to take what they want. They're taking whatever classes, whatever subjects. We aren't stuck in the school 8 hours, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And so for some kids, you know, having a class option, having some kind of organization that they can be a part of, that helps them with their learning.
My kids will tell you right quick, especially when it comes to English, they're like, Mom, can we please take the class with Miss Jessica? And I'm like, yes, that is totally fine. We will find a class that works for you, because, yeah, no.
It's fun.
There are some classes that us as parents
Yeah.
don't like teaching, or we're not able to teach. If I tried to teach Spanish, it would not go well, because I speak English and French. And you can ask Senora Owen, I will butcher whatever Spanish I attempt to say. So, outsourcing that is awesome. I am not math-minded. and trying to teach my daughter math in high school, I would have told you was gonna kill both of us. And so we outsource it now. And that's part of what NCHC tries to do is when parents are struggling in a subject, or if their kid really wants to get into something, but hey, we can't do horseback riding, I don't have a horse, where can I take my kid? That's what our group is trying to do, is trying to get you guys in touch with those different resources and everything.
I don't remember it was like this last year, or maybe I wasn't looking, but I love just the options. I feel like I've just been like a kid in the candy store.
The last 2 years have been rough on a lot of us due to COVID.
It's true.
A lot of things shut down. A lot of things, if they didn't shut down completely, were very limited. And thankfully this year, most everything is back again, full force. We've actually seen new things opening up, because during the pandemic, people were realizing like, hey, we're missing out on whatever. And so a lot of programs were started with the intention of, okay, once everything is clear, we're gonna get this going, we're gonna start this thing. So we've actually not only seen a huge increase in programs and everything, but a lot of it is due to the fact that because of COVID, because of the things that happened in the public school system as a result of that, our numbers in homeschooling skyrocketed. Our group on its own in the last 2 years has almost doubled in size.
Do you guys meet face to face, or do you do Zoom?
We, as far as Newton County Homeschool Co-op goes, because our group is so large, we have over 1,150 families across 10 counties. And so we have meetups, we have events, but it's typically not a whole group all at once kind of thing. A lot of what we do is just community outreach, helping families when they say, hey, my kid needs a math tutor. Who can y'all recommend? Or, we're learning about Native Americans. What in the area can we turn into a field trip? We make that information and those resources available. We also host big events like the Homeschool Bash, Field Day, graduation, our Christmas gift drive, which is going to be in its second year this year. And we're seeing more and more just requests for different kinds of things that aren't already being provided by other organizations. And so we're trying very hard to work on making certain things available to the homeschool community.
And the thing about it is many times as homeschoolers, when you're first starting, you don't know what's around. So being part of a group where, and maybe even like some of the admins won't know, but you'll have somebody in the group that does. So you ask the question, and they'll come back and be like, oh yeah, I saw that in such area in Atlanta. And if your child is really into it, you'll probably make the trip, and make a day trip out of it, field day. And because that is actually one of, I guess, the really nice things is that we are that close to such a large metropolitan area that does offer a whole lot of things. But, we shouldn't always look that way. There's so much in our backyard that we're not even aware of. And that's what we try to make sure, well, Miss Jessica and her group tries to make sure.
I appreciate that. I'll tell you, when I initially moved here, my job and everything was in Atlanta, so I didn't have my kids till 7 years later, but I only knew of things in Atlanta, so I would take that off. When I started teaching in the school system, I was like, wait a minute, we have this here. Like, we love the arts. And there's several things we love drawing and going to see plays. Well, now we have this out here. So I want to be able to leverage things that are here locally first.
Yeah.
Like, it's right here in our backyard.
And a lot of times it's just a disconnect. It's really easy for local organizations to reach out to the public school system and have it advertised to all of those kids. it's a lot more difficult to reach homeschoolers. And so we kind of act as the middleman, making sure that you guys find what you're wanting, but also when we have community theater, or when we have arts programs putting on concerts and things like that, we can make that information available to you guys so you know what's happening here that you might not otherwise hear about.
It's a lot. I'm so excited. And I'm still going through my flyers, and even the thing at the Stone Mountain, I hate to call it thing, but the Sequest.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, they've also different discount tickets for homeschoolers now, so I'm so
Yes.
excited about that.
And that's
Yes.
and that's the thing is like we forget. I know especially at the beginning. I'm not shy anymore. I will definitely ask. Do you have like a homeschool discount?
I don't know if you mentioned it, but I think you mentioned it on something about getting a teacher card. Somebody sent it because when I was at Sequest, they're like, "Are you a teacher?" I'm like, "I'm homeschool," but they needed like a card or something. So I'm like, I need to go get that. So because I could have got in
Yeah.
the homeschool price
Yeah,
if I
and
had a
anytime
card.
they ask you for, anytime, like, I know Target offers a discount for educators.
Yeah, I just didn't have the card, so you need the card, so I
Right.
need to go get that.
So, instead of having like an ID card, the way that a public school teacher does, you can show them your declaration of intent to homeschool, and that counts as your ID.
Mhm.
That and your regular driver's license because your name matches it. That's what they look at. So Joanne's offers it, Michael's offers a discount, believe me, I'm there all the time.
Good.
Just about any, museum, any type of, education-based venue,
Yeah.
when you go to purchase your ticket, ask them if they have either a homeschool discount or an educator's discount. Like Miss Owen said, after a while, you just get in a habit. My family took a trip to Williamsburg area in Virginia this year, and I'm seriously, I probably drove my husband crazy because every time we went to go do something, I'd be like, excuse me, do you offer educator discount? All the time. I mean, I'll even stores, if you're buying school supplies, ask them for a discount.
And I saw that on Facebook, the other advertisement, I thought it was fake, with the Target.
Target does it, Barnes and Nobles does it, because Barnes and Nobles will actually issue you a hard plastic card with a barcode on it and everything. And for a good while, my kids were very heavy readers. Now the books that they want, I have to normally get online because they're different. But, so we went there a lot. And so when we started homeschooling, I'm like, hey, by any chance, do you guys like have a discount or something? And they're like, are you a teacher? I'm like, well, I'm a homeschooler and I teach my kids. And they're like, well, do you have your letter of intent? And I was like, yes, right here. It's my, because I keep it in my wallet all the time. So.
I saw y'all pull it out. I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna do that. And then you said Joanne's.
Yep.
Didn't know, I'm not on that.
Well, I mean, if your child, boy or girl, it wants to sew, wants to learn to do resin, wants to, there's so many things that are offered there, just like
Supplies for science projects.
Mm-hmm.
I get stuff all the time.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go, and I knew, well, I just recently learned Michael's right at the, end of the summer, that they offer, so, I'm gonna have to take a.
Yeah, and so if you have like a rewards number with them, you just let them know that you're a teacher, they'll attach that discount, so every time you put your number in, it automatically hits.
I took a picture so you can have it composed.
I'm not saying Staples.
A
Staples.
lot of the office supply
Office
stores will do
Depot,
it.
yep, they will do them too, so. And just in case you guys don't know, this is Miss Wendy, she's the owner.
She's the awesomeness.
Thank you.
I won't take your face.
Get over here, Tam.
But you were talking about that,
Like, you can totally get our faces.
Oh, okay.
We have no problem with
Are
that.
we still talking, or do
Yes,
we need to
yes,
turn around?
totally.
Okay.
She
But I'm
just
saying
likes
that-
to.
I just want to take a picture for them for
Okay.
their
So let me
clothes.
get this,
Absolutely.
another company in there, we
I'm not taking any of your picture back, okay?
Okay, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
She's shaking her head. But yeah, we do Sequest for science, we did that for science, Sequest or the zoo. But now he's on first grade, so it's really easy with
Yes.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, he liked the tortoise. Oh, we're going back home. He looked up all the everything
see.
that was about a tortoise, and I had him go tell me information. We did like a little book report on tortoises. So,
Absolutely,
he
unit
loved
studies.
it.
But
Yeah.
When we talk
with
about
little kids,
the-
unit studies
You,
are
yeah, little
awesome.
kids,
Yeah.
it's great because he only in first grade, so it's. But
But
then I have a
it
garden,
would-
so we go
Yeah,
to
with
the garden.
unit studies, you
so-
can cover all of your subjects.
Mhm.
No, when you say
And-
unit studies, what do you mean?
So let's say he likes tortoises, okay? That's the theme that he picks, okay? So you can go to the library and pick out books on tortoises. You can look for websites, you can do field trips for them to gather their information, okay? When he learns that a tortoise's shell can, measure so much, and then you're like, okay, well, let's pull out the ruler, let's
Yeah.
take the measurement tape. Oh, that is also so many centimeters, So you're teaching him math because he's learning that there's different forms of measurement. Because most times your scientific numbers are gonna be given to you in the metric, not in, our standardized. And so then you can teach them that, oh, well, in the science world and around the world, they use something called the metric system. We use what's called the standard system. So guess what? You just covered math right there.
Yep. And like their age, they're doing like hypothesizes and things like that. So we're like, how long do you think it lives? Okay, that's a good guess, but this is how long it does live. And then we found out they were like, I didn't know this. They're almost 5 foot tall, the tallest one. Like, you think that that's as big as Daddy? Because we're like comparison to it. Is that as big as Daddy or is that short? So he's like, Daddy, you're 6. So he's all excited knowing what feet and inches and stuff.
Exactly, and then they're reading during
Yes.
that time,
Yeah,
so you're
yeah.
doing
Some of
your
it.
language arts. They're writing that information down, again, that's your language arts. So there's all this information, if you learn the history of them,
Yeah.
how far back they went, that's your social studies. So that's unit study, is picking a topic and covering
Digging
all
all
of it
into
under that one topic.
Good. I learned a lot, so I was excited.
Yeah.
There are times where I'll go to teach something and I get as much out of it, if not more, than my kids.
And he was really fascinated about it, 'cause I was surprised we did that on Monday, I think. And I asked him today about it again. So you remember any of the facts about the tortoise? He gave me everything we covered. Because they talked about the conservation and all
Oh,
he
yeah.
remembered all of it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, this is great.
Because you're pulling on that desire to learn from them, and that's why unit studies are so great for our younger elementary kids, or even up to 6th grade, because you're pulling on their interest and you're making it fun, so they're not bored because they're always in front of a workbook.
Right.
You're giving them everything. You're following all the different types of learning. So it's a great way to help our kids in that sense.
Yeah, I tell parents all the time, you can probably think back, regardless of how old your kids are. If you think back and they can tell you every detail of some show they watched, or I got 2 boys, we have dinosaurs, and if they can say things like Tyrannosaurus Rex,
Yes.
then they can learn science
Right.
terms.
Yes.
They can learn that big vocabulary.
Right.
We a lot of times get surprised at what our kids are capable of learning if we give them the opportunity.
Yeah. So I'm in the Pokemon now.
Okay.
So oh my goodness, there's some words you can't even pronounce, but he's doing that. So I'm like, we downloaded Pokemon Go on the phone, now he takes walks
And I know folks, depending on the age of their kids, they've used Pokemon to teach about like game coding. They've used it to talk about like the classification of animals in science and how all of those, yeah,
Oh my goodness.
there's all kinds of stuff that you can tie in with something as
Yeah, that's gonna be my next
simple
thing.
as
Yeah.
Pokemon.
To look up that, cause that's gonna be complicated, but I'm gonna leave.
Just to leave it a little.
And we're gonna go into detail. We're gonna kind of split the age groups, and we have a meeting that we're gonna talk about trying to teach your kids when they're in preschool age or elementary age, and then the difference when they get into middle school and high school, and some of the options as far as stuff like unit studies,
Mhm.
or tying in Pokemon to our science lesson. There's a lot of different ways that we can approach things based on stuff like learning style or the age of the student. And so some of our future meetings, we're gonna go more into depth with some of that stuff.
What do you, because your kids are who did you introduce when they, I guess, when you went into the middle school age, because it's like they're growing? You want them to grow not too advanced, but just kind of get away and have fun. So, do y'all have something that you invite other kids with, around their peers that are going to 6th, 7th, 8th to see what they're doing, what they like?
There's a lot, there's a group, the Southeast Homeschool Field Trip Homeschool, I forget the name of the group, it's a really long one. And they do a lot of the meetup styles that are age-based, and it helps as for kids especially, because the first thing they're like, well, all my friends were in public school, now I don't have friends, so let me find friends. That's one of the things why also my kids have always liked taking classes, is because they build up those friendships and they have those friends. Some of them, you know, they'll see them year after year, others may move away, but they still have contact with them. So finding those niches, I know there's people that, let's say, their child was into robotics, or their child was into dance, or was into horseback riding. And so they do that, and that's their one source to go out and actually be around other kids that are about their same age and share the same interest in something. So finding the thing that your child likes and finding that outlet for them is definitely gonna be the best. Because if they're happy in that outlet, it also trickles back into, you know, okay, well now we do have to sit down with, you know, with some worksheets, I'm sorry, cause, you know.
Well, and finding other students that are similarly minded, you know, because they share that interest in that activity, that helps a lot. Cause my kids, we've done a lot of like playground meetups where you get to know other people, and they just don't connect.
You can like suggest it on the webpage and like, you approve it, but like I've seen someone, her kid really like gaming, so they did an 8 to 10,
Absolutely.
8 to like 13-year-old gaming meetup. So say yours are like, we're just doing an art day or whatever.
We
art
have a
meetup.
lot of groups that have started because
They did a lot of
they-
stuff at the wild.
they
what's the
just
wild art thing?
post. and-
Yes, Wild
Yeah.
Art does,
Wild art, sketching
the
pads.
sketching
Yeah,
pad and
sketching
Conyers
pads.
as
But
well.
you could suggest that maybe and see who is interested, and you can start it
Cause they
yourself with them if
They
they like
play
it.
all the sports except football, so their dad coaches them. So one thing my son made me realize this spring, we were in basketball season, and they were saying, no girls play sports with us. I thought about it. They never really see girls playing sports with them. I'm like, gosh.
Yeah, she won't come out.
Yeah. So,
Or even like my little fella, at one point who did it? Somebody offered Tuesday night skating. It's somebody's in Jackson, I forget what it's called. So we used to go skating.
Probably Fun Galaxy.
Either
Yeah, Fun Galaxy,
or
that was it. So we
Starlight.
used to go Tuesday night and we saw a lot
Which
of
totally
teenagers
just
out
reminded
there.
me, I have these left over for you guys.
Okay.
thank
We
you.
saw like, thank you, a lot of teenagers out there skating, so I mean, that's a way, but it was like $5, so like, yeah, we're going on Tuesday.
Yeah.
He's 11. He just turned 11.
So we did, you know, we saw just a lot of different kids, and my little fellow, he does Cub Scouts, so that's where he gets.
Yeah.
I always keep him in something where some little people his age, you know, so.
Yeah.
It's around his people, like I said, it really dawned on me. September 10th, we saw baseball again, and for the last year, especially since COVID, and then it sort of hurt my feelings. My youngest son said, well, these are my friends, but those are my offline friends. And I said, what do you mean? And I was so sad, because two things. So he said, I said, what is that? They're not my real friends, but they're offline. I said, what do you mean? They're my friends, I've never seen them, but they play on games.
The games, yeah.
So, or even when they're in their room, my son will say, well, Mom, I want my toys in my bed because I'm sleeping. He was telling me that he's sleeping offline. I said, what does that mean? I don't have any of my friends with me. I'm offline. I want them to be with me. So I'm thinking like, oh, I don't want them to miss you know, I love the virtual, but I do want them to have that tangible. So like when they play sports, they're always pretty much with the same group, which they love them. But it was something we had done the other, finally went back to our church opened up. So they had a jamboree, yes, and my the girls that were in that class now, they're older and taller. My son didn't expect that, and he's like, so it was just so shocking to them, like, oh my gosh. So I said, yeah, I want them to be around just variety. Girls, boys, I want them to see it. So, like I said, a great thing about this, like you said, the sketching pad, I think it was Mondays 4 to 5, one of those days for homeschool. We did wild art before, so I'm gonna leverage it out, but it's like a kid. I'm glad you reminded me of this, Fun Galaxy, and that's in Jackson.
In Jackson.
Is that about 20 miles away from here?
From here, it's maybe about a 30-minute drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have one in Conyers, but I just liked it because it was not that many people, quiet, and it was $5. So we went like every Tuesday we were out skating.
Oh, off Salem Road.
Yeah, that's where that one is.
Yeah, what is Romp and Roll? That's what it is.
Yeah. They have a family night during the week too. That's cheaper too. So.
And there's a lot of places locally that, you know, they offer stuff like that, and if we hear about it, we try to share it with you guys.
And if you guys have a list of of like the schools that will let you participate in their sports, I know a lot of the public schools will. I mean, a lot of the private schools will. I mean.
So now, because of the Mosley Act, any public school is supposed to allow you. The keyword being
Yeah, suppose that's what I mean. I mean, the ones that we know.
Yeah.
So I know at one point you guys were posting a couple things with a couple of private schools, like we need some people to play. So
Yes.
I mean, there was a little bit over that.
Peachtree
Yeah.
in Conyers and Covington, they are very homeschool friendly.
Right.
They are always, we have yet to hear any issues with them as far
Or
as
did you
allowing
guys in middle
homeschoolers
school,
in.
like let them play sports?
I'm glad you said that because that was
Yeah,
something he was looking forward to, and I was thinking like,
Well, I figured it was the way you have people near you in your same county, and then you can see some friends that you might not have met because, you know,
Well,
your
and-
neighbors might not even met them because you
why
were
don't
in
you
that
leverage
school.
that?
What, to go to the public school?
So just to play sport, like they love baseball, golf, basketball.
You just go to the school office and you say, I'm a homeschooler, but I want my kid to play sports.
The big
There's a
thing is you have to be
form.
zoned for that school.
It
That's
does
what-
have to be the school that you're zoned for.
So that's easy.
And
You
it's
can
private,
go.
so you might.
You can go onto the Newton County Department of Education schools, and you can put in your zip code, and it'll tell you, you know, elementary, middle school, and high school, which school you're zoned for, per your address.
Right.
Now, private school, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, don't.
Private school
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
Now, personally, I wouldn't want my kids to go to any of the schools that they're zoned for.
Yeah,
Even
that's why I said, that's why I said the private.
Part of the reason why we homeschool, right?
Yeah.
Because
I know, I
want
just,
them to be exposed to a lot of stuff, but and I'm not gonna do it until my kids like at least middle, maybe high school. But
Yeah.
if you wanna play a sport, something
Another
that I can't do by
sport-
myself, you know?
yeah, another sport, school that I personally know homeschoolers that have participated in their sports program is, New Creation Christian in McDonough. They are awesome about letting homeschoolers participate in their sports, and I think they have like cheerleading and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one I was thinking, cause there's one I went to see for, like for band, I was in band and I loved it, so I'm like, I can't do that alone at home. You can't
Right.
be in a band,
Yeah, no.
You know,
No.
you can be in a community band maybe, but you gotta learn, you know, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then, of course, the schools, the public schools, will most probably, or most likely require you to follow the same, enrollment issues as the regular students. So if you're a family that doesn't vaccinate or something, then you might have problems, or maybe it's not that you don't choose to vaccinate, you choose to have a different,
An alternate schedule.
an alternate schedule of vaccination. So sometimes for some parents, that's a deterrent as well. But for me, it's just, I don't want them going, no.
Yeah.
That's what, only one I knew about was Peachtree, I was like, well, check that out.
We started off with Peachtree.
Yeah, Peachtree, I know McDonough, there's that one, I think Ola as well, and then there's one, There might have been Winder, if I'm not mistaken.
I think there is one out that way, but
That way.
I don't know what the name of it is.
Oh.
There are several
Yeah.
out there. And it's kind of one of those things like, just look around and see what's in the area and reach out.
And so I always see,
And then you can, again, you can always post in the group, because there will be parents that their child participates in a school that we probably haven't heard of, and so they'll be like, yeah, try this school, try this program. And if you just want like a little bit of sports, well, I don't know, Solid Rock, do they still do like their softball and stuff? don't
Solid
know.
Rock moved, but like the Parks and Recs department
Yeah.
in Newton and Rockdale offer stuff. I know there's a couple of different churches, like Upward offers sports through Prospect, I think
Yes.
is the name of the church.
Yeah, they've got the big gym,
Um,
the Lockett gym where they do that.
yeah.
And Zion's another one that did as well.
Yeah.
Zion Baptist. So that's another one too. If you go to Uplift's website and put in your address, they'll also tell you which churches have and what they have, because sometimes they'll offer basketball,
Yeah,
and
I think,
sometimes they'll offer football, or sometimes they'll offer both. Or
yeah,
cheer.
different locations offer different stuff.
Is it Uplift?
Upward.
Upward.
They do, different ones will do soccer, football, basketball, cheerleading.
Mm-hmm.
she did a lot of coding last year, but my son told me, I'm afraid, can we go to Idaho next weekend? That's what our friend is. I'm like, really? We just gotta go to Idaho. So yes, but
Idaho's just a little ways away.
But I guess that's one thing I do like about virtual, like everything, you just meet people all over the
Anybody, anywhere.
Yes, and hear positive things, but I love that. But yes, I look at Upward because those were my initial thoughts. I wanted him because he loves sports, like you said. I was on a dance team and band, but I already knew the middle schools are interested.
Yeah, I don't wanna go to the public.
Yeah, I knew that when I was carrying him.
Now my kids were in public for a few years. Then I homeschooled my oldest, and him begging me to pull him out because he was bored to death. And then he got overwhelmed with the online. It didn't work with his style of learning. So he was like, Mom, can you just put me back in school? I promise I'll do well. I was like, well, you better be a straight A student. A's and B's. And he did. He was a honor student, could not graduate because of COVID, but he got his diploma, but so, but yeah, it's like, no.
Well, and that's the good thing with homeschooling is we have the different options. So if your kid does do well with virtual learning, there's all kinds of choices for you. If they need a textbook and a workbook, there's plenty of options for you. If they need in-person meeting, teaching environment with someone, there's plenty of options.
So the thing I didn't like about work, because I taught virtual, that's school virtual. A lot of times you don't recognize, and I know like our Sunday school, we still do virtual. You may share something on the screen, and if kids are not vocal to say, oh, I can't see that, strain that. My son really messed up his eyes 2 years ago in school trying to
read.
Yes. So I don't really, I let them do it every now and then for classes, but to have that like 7 to 3 schedule, that didn't do well for us. But I'm glad with this unit, I'm gonna go back. I can see I'm gonna change my schedule around. They don't have to do 7, but I can break it down unit and hit the reading, science, all of that. And be done before lunch.
Yeah.
They're gonna love this. Yes.
When after my oldest went back, I was done dealing with my daughter being bullied. So I ended up, because after her being bullied in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, and the school not doing anything, I was just like, that's done. So I decided to pull him out and homeschool him. At the time, that meant we pulled, because me and my ex-husband, we shared children, and so that was 4 children that we pulled out to homeschool. And he was a truck driver, so he was gone a lot, and I worked. So homeschooling became a very interesting dynamic for us. When parents are like, well, but I work, I can't homeschool. Yes, you can. You just have to get out of the mindset that your child has to be in school from 8 to 4, because they don't have to. You can, the law says only, the state of Georgia tells us only 4.5 hours. So guess what? I can leave them things to do while I'm at work, and then when I come home, we go over it while I'm cooking dinner, and then after dinner, before bedtime, we can get our reading in, we can get our math, because I'm not gonna let a kid to learn math on his own, just doesn't work. And so we were able to get it done that way, and sometimes on the weekends. So I squeezed in field trips every time we could, because those were learning times every time. So there's ways to homeschool that are not the typical boxed thing that we think of when we think of school.
It was so structured. I had to pull myself away, and that was the thing. And I love when I taught at college, because it was different in public school. So when I used to substitute at school, I didn't really like. I loved the college. Like my son, they kind of know their routine. They can get up, get themselves dressed, they know what the expectations are, and even when they have a break, and then when it's time for us to recommit. So I love that. What I had to do is go back and change my thought, the way that I've just been taught, like to 7 to 3. So I'm glad that we're here, like, okay, we scratch that out, because I do know how to implement, like I said, that creative way. But a lot of times we're watching this, we're reading this book, they love Garfield. So it was on cyber security. The great thing about it is a lot of the hacking and things are going on. They love coding. And it was 9 o'clock at night, but we were able to incorporate read it and then discuss, like, they were talking about online passwords. Should you ever give someone your name or address? So without thinking about it, we were able to,
You were educated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A myriad of subjects. So I'm glad with this, even though I've had that schedule as printed out, I get to go, I know what I need to do to go in and tweak it, to keep it fun.
And I will tell you that those 2 years that I was working, because after that, things happened that ended up leading to me being a full stay-at-home mom. But for those 2 years, our dynamics for teaching constantly were changing. One, to keep up with the house schedule, and 2, to keep up with the kids. So there was a good time that they did an online program called Funcation, and I loved it because it allowed me that if they were not on the computer doing their work, I could tell. I could tell because I could randomly, log in on the parent side and see if they were working. And so they had like a timed that they were supposed to be working, and after that it was free time. They could read, they could draw, they could play, all this, that. And so when I would log in and, okay, only so-and-so is on, and so then it's, I need to take a quick 5-minute break outside, let me go make a call, and then it's like, why y'all not doing your schoolwork? I'm sorry, Mama. And I'm like, okay, go get your schoolwork done. But then come home and reinforce with whatever else that they needed or what they weren't understanding. It gave us that flexibility. We did a lot of visits to the library. They read books all the time because, I wanted them to fill their time with good things while that I could still count towards their education, even though I was working and, making an ends meet at the time. So,
like how you said too, this process has really forced us to be agile. Like you said, you've changed.
yes.
So I would have never thought I could leave, because I'm looking at my pictures on Facebook, and I was working in corporate America HR, and be at work for 6 in the morning to 2, rush, and I would come and I'll stay later to take 2 hours to go volunteer at their school. And I'm thinking to myself, how did I do it? But I used to be so afraid. Even after school, they have questions. I have to go back and reteach. Now that they're home, it's so much easier. Like I get to, oh my goodness, and I get to still work and do what I need to do. The things that they do, even like financial literacy, I think that's so important. And I was able to last year open up a business and teach them stocks. So that's something I've always wanted to do, but I would have never thought I would be able to lead. And so like I said, a lot of horrible things happened with COVID, but a lot of blessings. you
It
know,
did.
came
It did. It
too.
showed with the homeschooling. It showed a lot of parents that, you know, who were afraid to teach, or they'd be like, homeschooling. Oh no, I could never do that. And they're like, you know what? I actually can do this. You know, it's not rocket science. I can actually do this. You know, I don't have to be a master's in education to teach my children.
Right.
Especially when we think about that, you know, several hundred years ago, that's how everybody learned. You learned at home.
My favorite, I was Miss Beadle from Little House on the Prairie. I always wanted to be Miss Beadle, so absolutely, and you know, say whenever I taught PhD candidate, whatever, when I thought just a simple reading, writing, math, and even like I'm just learning, and when I'm talking to my students, those basic skill sets sometimes that you don't really get a lot of students who are 12th grade, even adults who cannot read.
Yep. And see, if you read, you can read history books. So if you get your social studies, you can read science books, so you can get your science. But if you cannot read,
That's right. That's right.
You know?
But they explain to me, I didn't vote because I'm like, how do you not? I can't read down that. I'm thinking, but you're 50. So it's a serious thing. So like I said, I was really glad to just press the reset button and see, and things that I know that are important, you know, and I was an honor student in school. There are a lot of algebra and trigonometry and physics that I didn't do in my everyday life. Now I get to really just be practical and say, you know what, this is gonna help. You know, like you said, even reading, you get a contract, you wanna be able to sign that contract, you know, or you're negotiating your money, you need to understand. So I always just have students say, I hate money. But if I tell you, you know, you'd say, you know, they love sports, and this person has $1 million contract. That's how a lot of the celebrities that they like ended up bankrupt. Only thing they heard was that beginning line, but they didn't
read all the rest.
And it ended up so, like I said, I love it. I love what this is done, but I really appreciate what you guys have done at the platform. And like I said, I love every day, like a kid in the candy store, just seeing what's out there. And it's helped my curriculum too, because I don't really have a standard curriculum. I just kind of do what I think, you know, I just center around what's needed. But the fun things, I love anything with a vacation or field trip. So every Friday, like tonight, I'll look field trip, whatever they're going to do, the urban air. But just to go and just let our hair down because we work so hard during the week. So thanks for introducing that. And I can't wait to tell them about this.
Most definitely. I mean, we homeschooled 1 week on a cruise ship. People were like, how that was vacation. I was like, well, before we went, they, you know, compared the Titanic to the ship we were gonna be on, found out how many people could work on it, you know, how much fuel it had, how far it could go, when did it need to refuel. We learned about the different ports, the countries where we were gonna stop. So they learned so much. And then it was a big
Conversations able to have with people.
yeah.
That depth I love it.
We're going camping this weekend, so I'm going home to look up some stuff to do beforehand.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cause we definitely won't have any reception, so you can't look.
No. Where are you going camping?
Vogel State Park.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna look up some stuff about that, so.
Which pack are you in?
211,
Okay.
so the one with the girls. I didn't know there was one right here too.
There are several trips around the area. Yeah, it all depends on which one works best for you as far as.
They came out to the
To the school,
thing last year.
yeah.
That's how we signed up with them, and then this year my son did, so he was out there with his little Cub Scout uniform on, talking to everybody, cause he's a talker. And I wrote that down for that day. I'm like, okay, he did recruiting, so I wrote that down, and he did.
That's public speaking.
Yeah, public speaking, recruiting. He talked to like 4 different people and adults, and he gave them all the background of Cub Scouts. I'm like, okay, wrote all that down for him for what he did that day.
You know, one thing I can say that I love, gone are the days when homeschool was like Sean. It was always like, I've always heard of some people that were afraid to, they were just like the nerds and just no. But a lot of people, and the most intelligent people I've met, they were homeschooled. They're so knowledgeable in the conversations. And actually, some students I met at Georgia Tech when I taught there, they were homeschooled. Their dad had introduced, they were entrepreneurs. A lot of skill sets they had when their classmates were just learning these skill sets in college. They've been taught them by their parents. And I had always said, oh, if I have kids, I want to do that. So that was good, yes.
I saw a news report on that, with these college professors saying they that's what they want. They say, we love when we see we got somebody in our class who is homeschooled, cause they're like, they actually know how to work by themselves.
Mhm.
They're self-motivated.
There are a lot of colleges now that are actively recruiting
Yeah.
homeschool
I
students.
love.
So I saw that I thought that was interesting, but I'm glad you said that about the end of the year thing, cause I took pictures of him out there doing recruiting and stuff, but I wouldn't know what to do with it. I'm like, I might need this. So I just take random pictures, but now I can put that as the end of the year thing.
Absolutely,
This is
yeah.
some stuff he did, so I wouldn't know what to do with it. Cause I had like stacks of stuff, like what am I supposed to do? What do I have to keep?
Yeah.
I don't have to keep all that, that's good.
I always suggest, if you can, take something from the beginning of the year, something from about the middle of the year, and something towards the end. Especially like with like writing and stuff, so you can kind of show
Show the progression.
how they've
Yes, I love
improved.
that.
So, that's normally what I do.
Appreciate it.
Well, and you ladies both know how to get in touch with us.
Yes.
So if you end up having questions, on the way home, go, oh, I should have asked this. Just reach out, you don't have to wait for the next